Automation is here.
Automation is here to stay.
Machine learning.
Robotics.
Artificial intelligence.
Augmentation.
Virtual reality.
Performance enhancing machines.
What does it mean?
What does it mean for my business?
What does it mean for my job?
What does it mean for my family?
What does it mean for the planet? Automation is the future.
Automation is our future.
Automation is here to stay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and CEO, Andrew Anagnost.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Morning. It's hard to talk over that. Or is it a good morning? No, let's face it. While we're all here at AU attending classes, going to parties, are we kidding ourselves? Are we naive? Are we dangling our feet over a chasm of job destruction? I mean, after all, it's all over the news, isn't it? Machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics. What does it really all mean? Are we going to automate ourselves away? Are we going to be doing less and serving machines more? And I probably think some of you are wondering, what about Autodesk? Is Autodesk going to automate me away? Are they going to automate away my job? I mean, after all, it's kind of a fair question. The last 3 years at AU, it's been all we've talked about. We've been talking about the coming robot revolution. We've been talking about numerous kinds of automation, new capabilities that are indisputably going to replace some of the things you do every day. So what does it mean for your job? Are we moving to a world of driverless cars and driverless CAD? Or are we moving to a brighter future, one where all of us can make more, better with less? And really, honestly, how do you know? How do you know who to believe? That's what we're going to try to spend the next hour doing. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world of automation, what some real people are doing to respond to it, and how Autodesk is not only going to help you survive it, but we're committed to helping you thrive in it. And first, let's start with the fact that this whole discussion about robots taking away our jobs has been around for about 50 years. Robots were going to destroy our jobs a long time ago. But that's really not what happened, is it? And why is that? Instead, what happens is each of the eras of automation, from the Industrial Revolution all the way to the current machine age, create more jobs, not less. So why should we assume the future is going to be any different? Let's look at some facts, for instance. Productivity growth and job churn are actually decreasing. Now, with automation, shouldn't we be seeing productivity going up, job churn going up? Now, these charts are for the US economy. This is averages since the Industrial Revolution, but we're seeing this all over the world. So if automation is driving productivity growth and unemployment, it's doing a really bad job. So to kind of understand this, maybe we should take a look back into the past and look at how this journey has unfolded for other types of professions and in other types of eras. Let's start with the financial industry, the good old corner bank. Now, some of you might be old enough to remember that in 1967, the first automated teller machine was introduced, the ATM. Now, this triggered numerous predictions about the demise of the bank teller. Their jobs were going away. But something really interesting happened. Over the 10-year period, when the number of ATMs actually quadrupled, total employment in the financial sector actually went up. And when this was all done, when those ATMs finished exploding, there were actually more bank tellers working than there were before. Now, how can that be? How's that possible? It's pretty simple. As other processes got automated within the banks were able to do more things with the same resources. This meant they could open up more branches and fill them with more jobs. Automation allowed them to do more. Now, it's true that today, the tellers are starting to see their jobs impacted by the rise of mobile. So automation is impacting the job of the teller today, but it took decades for it to happen. That's a long time to respond. Let's look at another example. Desktop publishing. You know, the world of magazines, newspapers, books. Everybody thought that access to online media and desktop publishing tools would destroy the publishing business. And frankly, at some level it did. If you're a journalist, you're still struggling with some of the disruption that's happened in this area. But look what also happened. Automation resulted in more. More graphic designers, more authors, more bloggers, you name it. More job types and content than we ever thought possible. And let's not forget that 20 years ago, the career blogger didn't even exist. Now, of course, with the good comes some junk. Not all the content is great. But some of it is really thought-provoking. Some of it is mind-expanding. The point is that more people, all kinds of people, are creating more kinds of content than ever before. The same's true for the movie industry. We all know that being able to get movies inside your home is kind of causing a lot of problems for the movie theater. It's also redefining the television set and the TV station. But it's also creating a completely new content ecosystem. Companies like Netflix, because they're able to drive automation and create online access to content, are creating whole new micro-filmmaking industries. Today, it's actually possible to create niche content for hundreds of thousands of users that's just as profitable as a big blockbuster movie targeted at hundreds of millions of people. So automation didn't ruin the content industry. It actually created a better one. Think about the emoji. Seriously, who would have thought a whole industry would be built around the emoji? I certainly wouldn't have thought this. But believe it or not, this is an industry that actually rose out of the rise of the smartphone. I mean, let's face it. There's movies. There's candy. There's gambling, all built around the emoji. Who could have seen this coming? Frankly, nobody could have seen this coming. Now, it's maybe a ridiculous example, but if there's anything that this tells you, if we couldn't see the emoji coming, we have absolutely no idea what kind of industries are going to be created by new technology. And that's one of the things all of us needs to focus on. But let me use something a little bit more familiar, something that all of us know about. The world before computer-aided design software even existed. Back in those halcyon days, there were about 300,000 people in the US drafting. You fast forward today, there's 10 million people using design software in the US. Automation made it possible for more people to design more things. And it led to new industries, new job types, more people imagining, designing, and making than ever before. So what this might tell you is that our ability to predict the future isn't necessarily all that good, but our ability to worry about it is exceptional. Exceptional. So maybe we should change the conversation a little bit. And instead of worrying about automation taking our jobs, let's start having a conversation about where automation can take us. Which brings me to our world, the world where people design and make things. Things like infrastructure, buildings, new products. What does it mean for all of us? Well, I believe it means we're all going to be doing more, better, with less. And what I mean by that is more projects, more products, employing more people with better quality, better outcomes, and better profits. And we'll do it all with less time, less resources, and most importantly, less negative impact on the world we live in. And the truth is, we really do need to do more, better, with less. Some of you have probably heard the statistic. By 2050, there are going to be 10 billion people living on this planet. 10 billion. That's 2 billion more than are living on the planet today. All of these people are going to need more than we can possibly deliver in any sustainable way. Just look at the infrastructure in mature countries. All of you know this, roads are in trouble, bridges are crumbling, and in some places the basic plumbing of cities can't keep up with demand. There's so much that we need to do. You look at emerging countries, there's not enough infrastructure to support the population that exists today, not to mention another 2 million. And you look at urban areas. All over the world, there's no way they can sustainably support the population growth they're expecting. There's simply not enough money and raw materials to build and rebuild cities. That's especially true in an industry like construction that we all know wastes about 30% of its resources on every single project. It's also responsible for about 40% of what we see inside landfills. By one estimate, we're going to have to build 1,000 buildings a day over the next 33 years to meet the growing demand. Now, all of you know that that's probably impossible. But it's absolutely impossible with our current capacity. What's more, we'd all better hope that as we move to a world with 10 billion, that we have a vibrant and growing middle class. And what's that middle class going to want? They're going to want more. More cars, more refrigerators, more toys, more computers, more of the things that make their life better. And in the future, they'll want more stuff we haven't even thought of. And if you don't believe me on that, just remember the smartphone as we know it didn't exist 10 years ago. Not to mention all the gadgets that go with it. More is inevitable, but more brings with it a lot of challenges, not the least of which, there isn't enough capacity to make more. Manufacturers, they struggle to profitably build products for an ever more diverse consumer class. Governments can't find money, funding, to build what needs to be built. Cities are struggling to accommodate more people and provide the services they need. There simply isn't enough capacity to do everything and keep pace with demand. And more importantly, the world really can't handle more. There's only so many resources, there's only so much space, and when the climate's changing, landfills are at capacity, and we all need clean air and water to survive, well, more starts to feel pretty unsustainable. So rather than viewing automation as the enemy, as a threat, why don't we view automation as an opportunity to do more? And if companies like Autodesk do our job right, that means all of us are going to be doing more buildings, more infrastructure, more products, and we're going to make them better with less. We're literally moving to a world where we can automate the process of making more, going from design to make at the push of a button. We're not there yet. It's going to take years to get there. But if we reimagine the way things are made today, we can use automation to make things better tomorrow. I'll give you a few ideas. Maybe some of them are wacky. What if somebody, maybe somebody sitting in this room, designed a robotic machine that could automate the process of grinding up old roads and paving new roads with the same recycled material? Now, wouldn't that mean that we could afford to continuously improve roads across entire countries, doing more, better with less? Not happening today, but it could happen, and automation could help us get there. And wouldn't there be more people building machines like this, deploying them on sites all over the place because they were cheaper to deploy, and supervising the projects that all of these machines are working on? Of course there'd be. What about old cars? Today, the average life of a car is well over 10 years, and most of them are inefficient, they're resource intensive to build, and they're simply polluting all the cities we live in. What if we could get all of the old cars off the road? What if every car on the road was the latest and greatest? We could get there if it only cost $5,000 to put a car on the road. And you know what? All the materials we need to do that are already on the road today. What if every old car out there could make 5 new cars, 5 new electric cars? Not possible? No, it's not possible today. But automation could help us get there. What about the Hoover Dam? Some of you have probably toured it at previous AUs. What if we had to rebuild it today? What if we had to build 5 of them? Right now, we can't even keep up with basic infrastructure updates. So the simple answer is we couldn't do it. It would take an enormous amount of time, money, and resources. If you want a modern example of building the Hoover Dam today, just take a look at the Three Gorges Dam in China. Even though you could argue that labor in China is lower than most countries in the world, this project still cost $27 billion. And it took 18 years to complete. And it displaced millions of people in the process. Beyond that, the environmental cost was gigantic. In fact, the water has become so polluted that the local cities say it's undrinkable. Sure, the dam's generating massive amounts of power, but the trade-offs are too great to ignore. That's what happens when you duplicate old ways of making instead of making in new ways. Today, we couldn't rebuild the Hoover Dam. I'm not even sure we'd want to if we could, because automation could actually help us reimagine hydroelectric power and help us capture energy in completely different ways. And that means we could generate more power, do it better than before, and with less impact. Now, at this point, I can get it. Some of you might be thinking, I'm automating myself into some kind of fantasy land. Can new kinds of automation really help us do more with less? Is there anyone in the real world that has applied automation technologies to reimagine the way they do things today, right now? Well, there actually is. And I'd like to invite one of our customers on stage to tell their story. Van Wijnen is one of the leading mid-sized design and build firms in the Netherlands. And what they've done is they've begun a journey today to transform their company by applying new technology to familiar problems. Please welcome Hilbrand Katzma from Van Wijnen.
Welcome everyone, and I'm glad to be here and have a very good morning. Our journey started back in 2011. At that time, we were in the middle of an economic crisis, and for those in construction, it hit especially hard. And like everyone in our industry, Van Wijnen struggled with high costs of failure, redo, and waste. And we looked at our business and we knew we needed to change rapidly and do much better. We realized we had to future-proof ourselves. So we decided to look beyond the borders of our profession. And we knew that being just a builder wasn't going to cut it anymore. And we talked with other businesses, manufacturers of cars, airplanes, software, and some of them here at AU. And what did we find? Every industry we looked at makes products with a high quality of standard material and makes them in very large amounts. So they're able to optimize their process. In the construction industry, it's normal and accepted that each design, each building has to be totally unique. So we are used to making one-offs. Everything's custom. And even in residential construction, you can build several hundreds, maybe thousands of houses. But even so, most builders aren't inspired to develop standards and make their production more efficient. Because a construction site is basically an open-air factory. It's at the mercy of the weather and has location-specific handicaps that makes the process difficult. And it's different for every building we make. And also the team is different every time. We put together different composition of team and supply chain members, from design to engineering, from production and construction, for each job. So we realized we needed to look at our process and our business in a different way. And to be future-proof, we decided we needed to reduce cost by 15%. And for certain projects, we have to build 50% faster and reduce the amount of defects by handover on each build to a maximum of 3. And to achieve these ambitious goals, we changed from 2D drawings to 3D building information models. And also, we cut out as many standstill moments we could by rescheduling our projects and optimizing logistics on our sites. And later, we trained the construction team to use tablets, ease in communication with the design team in the office, reducing clashes and sequencing changes on the job site, all while moving paperless. And transforming our process, organization, and supply chain, it wasn't easy. We struggled, we failed, but we tried again. But just 2 years after beginning, we reached our goals on our first projects. But we knew we could do more. So we started platform thinking in automotive and started to develop a modular concept for housing. And this would let us have the fidelity of components and efficiency of the build process that a car assembly line does. And we developed a platform of which we designed hundreds of smart modular components that can be used in many different configurations. And together with our partners, we defined all relevant data, and each module got a unique code and price. And this form of standardization gives our client the opportunity to personalize their home while meeting building regulations. So we've been able to optimize the design and engineering phase and shorten the time to market from 6 months to 3 weeks. And instead of 8 months from contract signing to build, customers now can have their home in 3 months. And the actual build can take as little as 3 days. So since 2016, we have two different divisions in our company. One is still making unique buildings, but with an optimized process of virtual construction and logistics. And the second division is delivering highly standardized products, digitally composed, produced fully filed to factory using new technology like augmented reality and robotic systems. Here, we're delivering a product after a short assembly on site. And that product is what we call fijn wonen, or in English, fine living. And what is fine living? It provides people affordable and comfortable homes throughout their lives. And our latest version can be disassembled and reassembled in a different configuration as the need of the clients change. And it's modular, it's affordable, it's beautiful, and it's net zero energy. Using our latest configuration tool, we bring the customer in our process, letting them determine the materials and finishes of their home in the design phase and showing them the cost of each design decision they make. And after configuration, our clients can walk through the neighborhood and the interior of the house virtually. After that, we automatically generate the documents for the building permits and all the order lists of the supply chain with one touch. But we didn't just transform the way we design the finishes of a home. We changed the way we lay out neighborhoods. So what if we want to use computing power to design a street or a neighborhood? Or what if we would be able to feed a computer with a selection of houses and give it goals that we find important? Ladies and gentlemen, here we will give a sneak preview of our latest production together with Autodesk. And I'm very proud we can show you this because we think this technology will change the way we design forever. We use our fine living products, houses and apartments, as constraints to lay out the neighborhood. And to enhance the quality of life, we set our primary goals as solar energy potential, program profit, costs, the backyard size, the variety of design, and the views. And generative design gives us the opportunity to let the computer make as many options as you want. And then we narrowed these many options down to just one, with the human designer's help. So that balanced all of the conflicting dimensions in interesting ways. So this lets us create both beautiful neighborhoods and homes that our customers love living in, but also make sure we can meet our goals of net zero energy. And it's better for our customer, better for the community, and better for the environment. So 6 years after starting our transition, you can see what a journey we've been on. But we are not done yet. By transforming our process from analog to digital, from the efficiency gained by prefabricated and modular components to the intelligence that generative design brings, I stand here before you with great faith in our future. And if it's possible for us, it's possible for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilbrand. Thank you very much. All right, so what I want you to take away from that is what you saw is a company not experimenting with completely new technology. They're taking ideas like generative design and they're deploying it directly into their core business today. Not tomorrow, not in some perceived future, but right now, they're trying to figure out how to do it. And doing it, they're bringing themselves more customers, more opportunities, and those customers are all getting a better experience. Van Wijnen is building a better business, building better homes. And they're doing it with less. Less material on the job site, less time spent in the design and build cycles, and less energy used to heat and light all those homes. Now, Van Wijnen is an example of a company completely evolving itself. Can whole communities do that? Well, that's exactly what happened in Greenville, South Carolina. Years ago, Greenville was right at the front and center of the thriving textile industry in the state, before all of those jobs went somewhere else. In 1990, nearly 50,000 people were employed in the textile business. Today, only 6,000 people are. Economically, Greenville should be dead. But it isn't. It's booming. And it's booming because while neighboring communities bet on financial services, software, tourism, Greenville stayed focused on manufacturing. They actually went out in the early 70s and started courting numerous large manufacturers, companies like Bosch, GE, Michelin, all of them involved in auto parts. And at the same time, they pumped investment into the local technical colleges. They funded training to help the local workforce adapt and to bridge their skills to the future. So when BMW was looking to establish its first plant in the US, the two things that differentiated South Carolina were the established auto culture and the state-funded training. Between 2010 and 2014, the area added 9,000 new jobs. And along with these jobs came an increased investment in automation. The skills required to work in Greenville today are changing, and they're changing at an even faster rate than before. But the rewards for those who adapt and learn are significant. Take Diane Page, for instance. She worked for decades making steel components for textile machinery. When the company Diane worked for was sold, she took advantage of the local training, the state-sponsored training, and gained new skills to become an expert machinist. Now she's training others and earning more. And beyond the impact for individuals like Diane, the whole state benefits as the technical college system adds about $500 million to the local economy each year for a fraction of that being invested, 1/10. That's what's really driving the boom in manufacturing in South Carolina. Automation and jobs growth can coexist. Which brings me to another example. I want to bring up Pierre Maillot from Bosch's technology strategy team. And he's going to tell you about how Bosch reimagined a plant in Montville, France, using automation and made a completely new business, making completely new products. Please welcome to the stage, Pierre Maillot. Welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, bonjour. I'm very pleased to be here today and to tell you a story about Bosch factory in Montville, Normandy. This is a story about how automation didn't push our employees, but helped them, and at the same time enabled our business to evolve. It's a story about transformation and adaptability. But first, let's quickly go through the history of the plant. In the 60s, every household in France wanted a TV. The manufacturing capacity was saturated in the Paris area, which led to build up in 1961 the Normandy Society of Electronics to manufacture black and white television. At that time, all assembly operations were completely manual. By the 80s, we had evolved the factory to make Blaupunkt car radios. Blaupunkt was a Bosch subsidiary, and this was our first step in the automotive world. Also, the manufacturing process was mostly manual, as you can see from the many women on the line performing precise assembly tasks. We brought in our first robots to assist the operation, especially for the electronic components insertion of the circuit board. By the 90s, we had evolved again, building a new factory at Montville, replacing manual soldering with highly automated manufacturing lines as a third step of the industrial automation. With the transition of the automotive sector from carburetor to electronic fuel injector technology, our plant expanded its facility and our workforce grew up to 1,200 employees. Montville became the electronic lead plant of the Bosch Group, supporting other manufacturing locations across the world in China, Hungary, or Mexico. Today, Bosch Montville is the second largest manufacturing of Bosch in France and the largest electronic plant for the automotive industry in France. We are the benchmark among all Bosch electronic factories with less than 1 part per million quality claims, on-time deliveries above 99.5%, and overall equipment effectiveness at 85%. From Dacia to Rolls-Royce, we supply all the European auto manufacturers with products such as engine calculation unit for fuel injectors, actuators for window and wiper system, or diagnose module tank leakage, which is a specific product for California because of state regulation. Now, this niche product sees another rebirth for China market with more than 1 million pieces per year. But like all manufacturing businesses, in automotive, we are facing tremendous challenges. Fierce price pressure, aging workforce, and a worldwide competition with customers requesting us to produce in countries with lower labor costs, such as China or Mexico. Finally, shortening supply chains was also necessary to become more profitable. So like every other European auto parts plant, Bosch Montville was losing business. We knew we had to reinvent ourselves and diversify our activity to remain competitive. And last but not least, we also had a social responsibility to save the site and the jobs of our 650 employees and their unique know-how. So in 2012, we brought together a group of workers and managers from the plant with our innovation team from Bosch Corporate. And together, the team brainstormed new approaches, new markets to tap, especially with the development of Internet of Things and connected applications in cities, energy, mobility, or in buildings. New skills to gain to increase the value of the product being manufactured. New technologies to employ, leveraging innovative applications from the Industry 4.0. And all these collaborative efforts were supported by a constructive social exchange with the worker and the union with a common goal to remain competitive and maintain employment. Because one thing is for sure, our workforce is incredibly skilled, but they are aging. The average age of our worker is 48. Robert worked on the line for 20 years and suffered from arm pain. Now, he's partnered with a robot. We call it a cobot, which not only helps him to move faster and assemble circuit boards more accurately, but also does all the repetitive operations for him. His arm pain has gone away. We retrained him to work with robots, and he has now developed new skills. So thanks to this automated assistance, we have now more opportunities for our workforce to qualify for completely different jobs. With more robots comes an additional task, the need to service and program them. So working on ergonomy, operations assistance, higher job qualification helped us to keep our workforce engaged and busy. But we still had to look for new customers and markets. And at that time, the market demands of consumer electronics and connected application was booming, mostly driven by the emergence of Internet of Things. In Europe, big groups and small hardware startups started to focus on connected mobility, well-being and health, smart home, smart cities, or even like this startup, smart agriculture. But unlike our former automotive customer, these companies, they don't need millions of parts. They need much, much smaller quantities, like hundreds or thousands, but with a much higher value compared to commodity product. These new entrepreneurs might have a great idea for an innovative product and the skill to prototype it, but not the design experience to bring it to the production scale. They require an industrial partner which can be both reliable and agile. So how could we leverage our own electronic manufacturing expertise and tap into this market? Or should I say, how to shift from a standardized production of millions of parts to the industrialization of innovative products? We have been manufacturing at Mondeville for decades, and we have a deep institutional knowledge about how to produce these parts efficiently. This unique know-how and reputation of quality was a way we could differentiate ourselves. We therefore developed a new business model, manufacturing as a service. We would deliver any type of service related to engineering and production under a modular and tailor-made offering. We will set up dedicated logistic routes for the customers, develop their test methods, their manufacturing process, provide repair of the product and after-sales services. We would co-develop their electronics and offer consulting on mechanical design. And for this revolution, we will totally reconfigure our factory. In order to do more runs of fewer parts, we knew we have to design an assembly line that could handle the frequent changes. Fixed tooling was not adapted anymore. We needed to employ all the tools and techniques of advanced manufacturing to make this work. Not just the robots we already talked about, but additive manufacturing and even a self-adjusting assembly line designed with flexibility and uptime in mind. This let us rearrange our production lines as often as required for our customer needs. We used Autodesk Factory Design Suite solution to design this line, and it has been a full success. So far, we brought on 15 new customers, and we have reduced our time to market from 16 months to just 4. We've helped bring 20 new products to market. Our initial achievement was to produce the first e-bike system for Bosch internal startup. In 2012, not so many people believed in electrical assistance for biking. As of today, it has become one of the most efficient solutions on the market, recognized for its compact design, power, and reliability. We produce more than 1 million systems per year, and now mountain bikers, police officers, and dads are using the technology. Sigfox is one of the most promising French startups, delivering a narrowband, low-cost, and low-power network for Internet of Things application. This technology is included in connected devices, such as our Bosch water heaters, to allow for remote monitoring, online diagnostic, or preventive maintenance. Mondeville is partnering with Sigfox to produce and ensure the logistic deployment of their new base station in more than 30 countries. The last example is a connected loudspeaker that we have developed for one of the French unicorn, De Vialet, who designed a speaker aiming for incredible acoustic performance and unique aesthetics. It was originally not even meant to be manufactured and marketed, but through a close cooperation, we managed to reduce production time, increase the line efficiency, and allow for mass production. It became so popular that it is now sold out of the Apple Store. So in conclusion, it took us some time to transform our business, but now we are competitive again. We are entering new markets, and we have got an engaged, experienced workforce that has acquired a full set of new skills. Normandy is usually known for its cheese and milk, but with this customer success story we have shared, maybe you'll think of technology when you think of Normandy. I'm very proud of what we are doing at Bosch Mondeville, and I'm very grateful to be here, share our story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pierre. please, can we all give a hand to our customers for coming up here and dedicating the time to do that? Thank you. Now, there's a real key takeaway I want you to take from that Montville story and from the whole Bosch experience. They took a factory in a local community that built one thing in large volumes, and they turned it into a factory in that same community that built many things in small volumes, many new products. And because of that, they were able to employ more people in Montville. They've created better opportunities for their workforce, new skills, new ways of working. They've got better relationships with their customers. They've got less downtime and less worry about the customers going somewhere else. It's an awesome example of people using new types of technology to transform themselves today, right now. So that was a lot of great examples, positive examples of companies and communities partnering with new technology, new automations, right now, today, to do more, better, with less. And they're doing it in their core businesses. That's pretty amazing stuff. Now, that said, we cannot be naive about the challenges that automation presents for all of us. It's really going to impact the way all of us work. Remember when I talked earlier about how productivity in the US and other parts of the world seems to be stagnating? How can that be? How can that be with all the examples I've just shown you, where automation is doing all sorts of new, amazing things? Well, it's actually really simple. If you look a little deeper, what you see is that productivity is slowing dramatically in some places, the red dots. But in other areas, it isn't. It's actually growing more rapidly, the green dots. And what it tells you is that the benefits of technology are not evenly distributed, whether it's rural areas of the US or other parts of the world. And the reason for this is simple. Between each era of automation, there's a gap. It's the space between the old and new economy. It's where the skills you had in the past are not the skills you're going to need in the future. Now, some people look at this and they see it as a leap of opportunity. And that's usually because technology and technical skills are readily accessible to them. They know where to get it and they know what they need to learn. But for other people, maybe some people in this room, it's a valley of dread. And that's because getting access to technology, getting access to skills is either too complex or it's not available at all. As a result, entire communities can be left behind. And you might notice, looking at this chart, that the gap between eras is getting shorter and shorter. And that's just because the pace of technological change is moving faster and faster. And that shortens our time to respond. Let me give you just one really dramatic example. In China alone, it's predicted there is going to be a shortage of 3 million skilled robot operators by 2020. That's just 2 years from now. Now, like I said, maybe an extreme example, but I think what it does is it changes the dialogue again. There's going to be a scarcity of skills in the near future, not a scarcity of jobs. And I'll tell you right now, as the leader of an automation company, I feel it's our social and our moral responsibility to help people successfully traverse the gap. And the good news is we all still have time. Remember that story about the rise of the ATM? It took over 30 years to impact the jobs of bank tellers, 30 years. Now, we're not going to have 30 years this round, but the time isn't as short as some of the headlines say it is. Maybe we have a decade or more. And let's not forget, technological change does not happen in a vacuum. There's always something pushing back. There's social, political, and economic forces that slow the rate of adoption. People can only absorb so much technology at one time. Businesses have to invest and deploy technology at very different rates. And I know all of you know exactly what I'm talking about because you deal with it every day at your jobs. How many of you have projects that take years, sometimes decades, to complete? I know there's a lot of you don't have to raise your hands, right? That alone slows the diffusion of technology. We've got time to adapt. So what are we going to do? We have time, but it's time to get started. And to succeed in the new era of automation, it comes down to three things: adaptability, resiliency, and community. Three things we actually gave you some examples of today. Adaptability. It's all about evolving your skills and learning new skills. Remember the example of Robert in Montville? He now works with a cobot. Completely different skills, completely different way of working. What about the factory in Montville itself? From making one thing in large amounts to making many things in small amounts. Real adaptability in the real world happening today. Resiliency. This is about finding the will and resolve to bounce back when technology starts to disrupt your business. We saw that with Van Wijnen very clearly. They transformed their business in the face of an economic downturn, and they used new types of automation to get there. They tackled technology head on and developed new approaches. And now they've got a much bigger business for it. And then there's community. This is the idea that all of us working together can do a lot more than any of us working on our own. And we saw that happen in Greenville. Remember? Local businesses, colleges, the state of South Carolina, all working together to get through the gap. That's the power of community. All great examples of the power of adaptability, resilience, and community. And you know, I said earlier, I think it's the social and moral responsibility of companies like Autodesk to support our customers through these changes. And you know, it's a fair question to ask at this point then, exactly what is Autodesk going to do? Well, first, let me be very clear about something. Autodesk does not want to automate your jobs away. We believe that humans and technology, whether that's robots or Revit, can accomplish a lot more working together than they could alone. Maybe some technology companies out there really do want to eliminate jobs. But at Autodesk, what we're much more interested in is preparing you for the future. So let's talk about adaptability and what we do to support adaptability. One thing we do every year is we come to Autodesk University. And for the last several years, and today again, we've been talking about where we believe the world is going and how the future of making things is bringing design and make closer and closer together. It's our belief that the more you understand what's coming, the more adaptable you can be. And when you leave today, right behind me, there's a huge exhibit hall filled with even more examples of where the world is going, more opportunities for you to understand where things are heading. We're also starting to integrate new types of automations into the products you use every day so that you can help get comfortable with what these automations do and how you can apply them to your everyday work. You'll hear a lot about that over the next 2 days at the main stages right here up here and see what the future holds. But I'll give you a little bit of an example. We're actually taking our generative design tools and we're using them to automatically design for as many manufacturing techniques as we possibly can. We can already produce an output that is millable, making generative design entirely practical for the machines many of you use today. And we're moving to automate processes across the rest of the manufacturing space so that you can output to composites, casting, injection molding, all in the same design space. And you'll start to see some of these things show up in the products you use every day. We're also exploring new tools that could bring the learning environment directly into your working environment and directly into the tools you use. At a glance, you'll know what skills you've learned, what skills you need to learn next, and what skills you'll need to bridge the gap to another profession, to another type of work. We like to call it generative learning because it anticipates your needs just like generative design does. So let's move to resiliency. Our commitment to resiliency is to ensure that technology and technical skills are everywhere they're needed. You already know that we give technology free to all the education institutions, but we also are investing in a new fund that's focused on job training and reskilling, helping people succeed in the new era of automation. We also engage in programs like the one above, where we work with local organizations to help people transition from roles that no longer offer the opportunity they did in the past. This program in particular is designed for pipe fitters, welders, and electricians, so that they can learn completely new skills and transition from roles in the building industry that are declining to higher growth opportunities in the building industry. Now, I know none of you are pipe fitters, but I know a lot of you know pipe fitters, and you work with them. The point here is that as we roll out more programs like this, they're going to be targeting different areas. For example, consider a program that targets construction site workers, that helps them develop new technical skills as construction becomes more digital, more industrialized. We've also begun the process of working with local governments to make sure that policy supports the kind of technology adoption and that automation is seen by these institutions as a way to do more, better with less. There's more work to be done with governments, but we're seeing a lot of progress. For example, we've been talking to all of you about BIM for years, and now we've been talking to governments about BIM as well. And because of that, countries all over the world are standardizing on BIM-based approval processes that help make the whole ecosystem move faster. And that's only the beginning of what we can do in partnerships with governments. Which brings me to community. One of the biggest things we're doing with community is making new automation technologies available to anyone, anywhere. That's what Forge is all about. It's our open platform that lets you create and build and customize your own automations. It literally lets you build your own automation-driven microeconomy. That's exactly what happened with the Royal Institute of British Architects. What they've done with Forge is digitized mountains of paper-based standards and united them with BIM in the cloud, giving anyone in the country, anyone, access to all the information they need to accelerate their projects and to integrate the right information with BIM. They're literally uniting the whole building community together in the cloud. And then there's LimForge. Here's a small team empowered with the big technology they get access to with Forge. They custom make prosthetics on really small budgets, anywhere in the world. And they're successfully competing with much bigger tech companies. LimForge has figured out how to make limbs at the push of a button, and they're doing it with Forge. So we're investing in adaptability, resilience, and community so that anyone, anywhere, can navigate the gap and make anything in the new world of automation. And whether you see the gap as this leap of opportunity or as this slog through the valley of dread, our goal at Autodesk is to ensure that all of you get access to the technology you need so that all of us can make more, better, with less.